The mobilization announced in Russia on September 21, 2022 has particularly affected regions with indigenous peoples. Many experts pointed to the disproportion between the conscription of representatives of national minorities or indigenous peoples and the titular population of Russia into the army. So, for example, at the beginning of the recruiting campaign in the Russian Federation, the journalists of the Doxa publication found out that in the Novosibirsk region, according to the mobilization plan, a little more than 2,000 people should be called up. This is 0.27% of men. Whereas in the Republic of Sakha, they are going to call up 4,750 people, and this is 1.66% of the male population of the region.
The Arctic regions of the Republic of Sakha, Abysk, Anabarsk, Verkhnekolymsk, Verkhoyansk, Nizhnekolymsk are in the lead by the call, where indigenous small peoples live which are already under the threat of extinction. Now there is a threat of exposure of the male staff of the sparsely populated northern regions of the Republic. It is not clear how to explain such a difference in proportions, but it seems that the Kremlin has planned the genocide of small peoples using us as cannon fodder. Activist from the Republic of Sakha in an interview with Doxa.
Since the beginning of the announcement of mobilization, activists in Dagestan have also announced ethnic cleansing of indigenous peoples.
Dagestan, one of the train carriages, the locomotive of which is the Kremlin, and right now this train is rushing towards the cliff. The masks have been dropped. With the tacit consent of the Republican Muftiat, politicians as well as titled athletes, tens of thousands of Dagestanis have been brought to the scaffold. Ethnic cleansing has finally become apparent to most of us. We are watching the genocide of our already small peoples.
The Russian government has been recruiting the underprivileged for the war in Ukraine by promising wages several times the average salary in the region, by not giving potential recruits real information about what to expect in the war, and by using propaganda during community gatherings.
We live, we work in Russia. We not only have to, we are obliged to justify the bread that we eat. I propose to form a volunteer battalion and call it the great name Amir Temur.
The total number of indigenous Russian servicemen killed is currently difficult to estimate, since many have Russian names, making it impossible to distinguish them from non-indigenous servicemen in open databases, according to the Indigenous Russia website, to which Roskomnadzor has restricted access within the country. For example, 6 months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, just over 100 servicemen were officially confirmed killed in Vladikavkaz, the capital of North Ossetia, but there was no longer any space left in the cemeteries, Reuters reported.
For 20 years, 21, 25, all sons. I wash my face with tears together with mothers and fathers. I don't understand at all who needed this war. Mothers also ask this question, who needs this war? But I can't answer them. Probably it should have been like that. Probably upstairs God willed it like that.
As for the temporarily occupied Crimea, here, according to Doxa, at the beginning of the mobilization campaign, gross violations of international law were recorded, in particular the Geneva Convention.
Crimeans are citizens of Ukraine, even those who, due to their age, did not have time to obtain a Ukrainian passport before the annexation. They received Russian passports in the process of forced passportization, which is already a crime, and now they are called to the front. A resident of Crimea who wished to remain anonymous in an interview with Doxa.
Both Crimean Tatars and all other Crimeans are facing wholesale mobilization, says Eskandar Bariev, a member of the Majlis of Crimean Tatar people. It actively began in June 2022, when the so-called authorities of the temporarily occupied Crimea announced the creation of a volunteer battalion of 1,200 people. In total, according to the experts, about 20,000 Crimeans have been mobilized since September 2022.
According to our information, the occupation administration prepared 60,000 summonses in Crimea. In reality, the task they had in the first wave of mobilization was to mobilize around 20,000 people in the region.
Now they are walking around the peninsula with lists and looking for so-called draft dodgers, says Buryatia. And from April 1st, 2023, the spring conscription began on the peninsula, and a few weeks before the start of the campaign, students and school graduates had already begun to receive summonses.
В частности, в автотранспортном техникуме.
In particular, in the Motor Transport Technical School and in the Railway College of Simferopol, they began to issue summonses to graduates, although they will graduate only at the end of June and July 2023.
The Crimean Tatar Resource Center, according to Buryatia, has been conducting an information and explanatory campaign since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. It helps to collect documents for traveling to third countries and also explains to its fellow countrymen how to evade conscription into the Russian army. And those who fell into the ranks of the armed forces of the Russian Federation tells how to go over to the side of Ukraine. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Belokudra, UATV News.